Hello there, everyone. Ted Lacksonen, the country thinker here, bringing you the next episode of The Eagle Has Crashed. Now, this week we move on to November of 2029, and I think it's going to take 3 sections to do it, but I'll do one today and probably do 2 of them next week so we can get through it in just a 2-week period. Now, today we start off with the great solution to our debt problem that Congress and the President have worked out. When you hear it, if you think that it sounds a bit implausible, let me just suggest that between the time I thought this up, this proposal was in fact kicked around by some members of Congress, along with some that are significantly more extreme. So anyhow, let's get to the story and you can hear what Congress and the President came up with to try and fix our debt problem. President Maynard strolled through the White House Rose Garden on an unusually warm November afternoon. Hundreds of cameras clicked as he approached the podium, and his press secretary shook his hand. The president turned and shook hands with the members of Congress behind the podium, Senator Caldwell of North Carolina and Congresswoman Burks of Maryland. The president beamed as he approached the microphone and cleared his throat. Today, we have taken a great step forward in finding a permanent solution to our nation's budget deficit woes. I am proud to say that we have finally passed the big compromise, which I will sign in a few minutes. There has been a lot of misinformation flying around out there about exactly what is going to happen once I sign this legislation into law, so let me explain it one more time. For years, the federal government has encouraged Americans to save and invest for their retirement through IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and other retirement accounts. The promise to America was simple. Save for your retirement, and we will only tax your savings one time, instead of twice like ordinary investments. You can invest tax-free, and then pay taxes when you spend it in retirement. The problem was that these programs were poorly designed. The government selflessly deprived itself of much-needed revenues, foregoing this revenue until the future. Today, we have corrected this flaw and taken a great step forward fixing our budget deficit problem. Beginning today, IRAs and other retirement accounts will not be tax deferred. They will be tax protected. These investments will be taxed as ordinary income, but will be shielded from taxation when they are withdrawn during retirement. To get existing retirement accounts to conform to the new and improved tax protection system, the IRS has been granted authority to tax existing accounts in accordance with a schedule incorporated in the legislation. That is, we will assess a one-time tax on all private retirement accounts, but these accounts will never be taxed again. The rate is considerably lower than Americans could expect to pay if the existing broken system were left in place. Indeed, this is one of the wondrous situations where there are no losers. There are only winners with the big compromise. The big compromise fixes a flawed system and improves our nation's fiscal situation by guaranteeing a reliable revenue stream. Americans who have saved for retirement get an enormous tax break by having their accounts taxed far below what they would have paid under the existing system. I know that many of you have been anxious about the economy. You have been anxious about unemployment. Perhaps most of all, you have been worried about the problem of the national debt. Those of you carrying such worries, you can rest easy tonight. Our national debt is no longer a problem and will not be so again for a long time. Thank you, and God bless America. The president moved away from the microphone and stepped up to a desk in front of the press corps. He sat down in an oak chair, picked up a pen, and put his broad signature on the paper before him. Everyone present clapped. Mr. Speaker, what do you think of the big compromise? You mean the big shaft? America just got screwed, Frank Baston snorted. But it fixes the budget shortfall, doesn't it? It patches it for a while, but America is still a leaking ship. What can you say? The government's going to take 30% of everyone's retirement account based on an empty promise they won't come back for more. But didn't 5 House Republicans vote for the big compromise? I wouldn't call them Republicans. They're Benedict Arnolds. Are you aware that there are taxpayer groups that are going to challenge the big compromise in court? Good. Hopefully they can find a judge who has better sense than Democrats. Not that that's a high hurdle. Congresswoman Burks, what do you have to say now that the big compromise has been signed into law? It's a huge victory for America. It generates an enormous amount of revenue that will see us through this recession and beyond. But no Republican senators voted for it, and only 5 in the House. What can you say? Typical Republican obstructionism. How can it be called a compromise if it had almost no Republican support? It was a compromise between two ideas, raising taxes and cutting spending. Because government is such a critical component of our economy, we agreed early on that major changes in either could have harmful unintended economic consequences, a risk we decided not to take, given the shaky economy we inherited from Republicans. So the term compromise refers to our early agreement to find a way to get through the recession without risking harm to the economy with massive budget changes. Unfortunately, or perhaps typically, the Republicans reneged and tried to unilaterally ram their own plan through Congress, one that included only their own ideas. But the Republican plan had higher public support than the big compromise. Again, the big compromise was a cautious approach. Major changes to the budget could have upset the apple cart. The Republicans tried to sell their plan as a safe way to fix the problem, but they have no way of knowing what the fallout might have been. If their plan pushed us into a depression, would that have been a good thing? Of course not. That's why we had to move forward in spite of public opinion. It was the right thing to do. Sometimes you have to do what's right, even if it's unpopular. Republicans say the big compromise will have consequences of its own by draining large amounts of investment capital out of retirement accounts. I haven't heard a single economist worth their salt agree with that analysis. So you're confident our growing debt crisis is over for now? Burks nodded. Oh yeah, we've got a lot of breathing room now. Our creditors can breathe a sigh of relief. Dylan Johansson walked to the door of the family's home office to see the bluish silhouette of Benny sitting in front of a computer monitor with her hands in her frazzled hair. Is everything all right? He asked dopishly. Benny's grip on her long locks tightened. No, she said sharply. It's not all right. Dylan walked up behind her and put his hand on her shoulder, which tensed immediately. This big compromise totally screwed us, she said. Benny sniffed and brushed away a tear. How? I don't mean to be stupid, but I thought it was supposed to cut us a break on our taxes. Benny put her head in her hands. Yeah, right. They're taxing us like we're going to live the lifestyle of the rich and famous when we retire. I know it's a long way off, but damn it, we've been planning this meticulously. We've still got 25 years to go, Benny. Yeah, and it just got a lot further. We're going to have everything paid off and live a nice, quiet retirement. You know, with kids and grandkids running around. Nothing special. But because we're doing very well right now, the big compromise is going to rob half our retirement like we're headed to Martha's Vineyard. We're totally screwed. We'll make it. We'll be all right. Benny began sobbing. Damn it, Dylan. I love your strength because it helps me, and I hate it because I don't have it. She grabbed his hand and tucked it beneath her neck. Damn you, Dylan, and damn it all. What are we going to do? We'll make it, darling. Some way. Somehow. Kevin Davis was in the sunken family room of his home, on the couch in sweatpants and a t-shirt, his feet up on the coffee table. He was watching a replay of the Cleveland Browns' overtime loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers the previous day when Lucy entered the adjacent kitchen. Hey, Luce, he said without looking. How was work? Oh, fine, sweetie, she answered. Lucy thrust her head forward and squinted, then pointed at his bright red high tops. Are those Nylox Super Shocks? Kevin picked his left foot up off the table and rolled his ankle around. Cream, huh? Lucy placed her hand on her hip and shook her head. Honey, we can't afford no $350 for a pair of shoes. Kevin turned to his wife with the slumped shoulder look of a scolded puppy. They were only $250. Buckeye Footwear is closing and they're selling everything cheap. It's still too much for a pair of shoes, especially with your Union Bennies about to run out. Kevin tugged at his left earlobe. Oh, I got a little extra money last week. Lucy scowled and folded her arms across her chest. Doing what? I've been helping the union boss out, he answered, nodding repeatedly. I'll ask you again, Kevin Davis. Doing what? Oh, we're recruiting new members. With dues way down, I wouldn't think they'd have the money. Kevin tugged his left ear again and looked down. It wasn't a lot of money. Maybe so, but we should have saved it. I run the checkbook around here, and believe me, every penny counts when you're not working. Kevin's eyes drifted to a replay of a Pittsburgh wide receiver making a one-handed catch in the back of the end zone. Lucy stepped down into the family room, walked in front of the 52-inch flat screen, and crossed her arms once more. I don't think I buy your story, Kevin. Have you been selling pot again? You promised me when KJ was born you wouldn't do that no more. His mouth opened wide. I can't believe you're saying that. No, I ain't selling pot. I just been doing a little side work for the union. Lucy shook her head slowly. Maybe so and maybe not. I ain't sure right now. But you make bad decisions sometimes, Kev, and you got a history of letting your friends talk you into some pretty dumb stuff. And let's face it, your computer game nights with your buddies have been running awfully late. She shook her finger at him. You promised me you ain't doing something that'll get you thrown in jail. You'd lose your unemployment, and me and the kids be in the hurt. I can't believe you said that, Luce. Of course I ain't doing nothing illegal. Lucy walked to the couch and tucked her long flowing skirt behind her legs as she sat down on his right side and leaned into him. He put his arm around her shoulder. I love you, sweetie, she said, and me and the kids need you around. If you're doing something you ain't supposed to, stop it right now. And bring me every penny you get because we need it. Yeah, no problem, he said as he gave her a light kiss on the cheek. Kevin felt Lucy's tense shoulders begin to relax. So what's for dinner tonight, Chef Kevin? Mac and cheese? He chuckled and nodded slowly. With hot dogs and peas. Lucy's chest heaved and her arms jiggled as she laughed. Clarice is going to have a fit, violating her favorite food with green death balls. A dad's got to do what a dad's got to do. You remember that, Kevin Davis. Okay, that concludes the first part of November 2029. I would like to have gone a little further, but YouTube limits me to 15 minutes. So what I'll do is next week I'll finish up the chapter. It'll probably take 2 segments to get it done, but I'll get all of it. And let me just let you know that action's going to start picking up a little bit, and hopefully you're enjoying it, and it's going to start getting even more exciting. So next week we will conclude November of 2029. The Eagle has crashed. If you would like to purchase the book, you can get it from my website, clearpeakpress.com, which is the only place you can get an autographed copy. Excuse me. All you have to do is, in the instruction to seller box, is request an autograph. You can also get it as ebook or paperback format from Amazon.com or BarnesandNoble.com. It's also available as an ebook through the Sony Store, the iTunes Store, Smashwords, and other retailers. So until next week, we'll see you later. This is Ted Lacksonen, the Country Thinker, and I'm hoping you all have a really good week. See you now.